All right, let's head to the studio in the clouds and get our Route 66 wheels on here. We have Joan Sestak?
Sestak, pretty close. Very
Sestak. I
good.
apologize.
No,
Sestak, Director of Communications and Government Relations with the University of Illinois Southern.
no. So I'm the Director of Community and Government Relations
Oh,
at the University of Illinois Springfield.
that's what it was. But you're also on the Route 66 Centennial Commission, and that's really kind of what brought us here today. I did want to ask you about your position at the university. Is that a direct connection with the commission in any sort of way, or is there any sort of connection at all?
It is not. I actually was appointed. My name was put forward by Senator Durbin and appointed by President Biden during that period. So I was recommended through Senator Durbin's office to Senator Schuman's office for the federal. So I'm on the federal commission. There are several commissions. Each of the 8 states has their own commission. And then the federal commission was created by a public law in 2020 that went through Congress. And so there are members from each of the 8 states on the commission, appointed by governors and senators.
And as you mentioned, this is something that Congress established.
Correct.
Route
So it is
66 Centennial Commission was okay. Okay. And
correct. And
uh,
basically what that public law did was assemble this commission, and our responsibility is to vet programs. So hence why you were talking earlier about submitting a program that you wanted for us, the commission, to recommend to Congress. So we have no fiduciary responsibilities. We don't have any funding. Ours is totally to recommend programs and concepts to Congress. So we file reports every quarter. And then we work with the state tourism directors and things like that. You know, I've attended some things obviously here in Illinois and here in Springfield through my role as a commissioner on the federal commission.
and I should mention that I did the project submission on the Route 66 hyphen centennial.com website. And there's a way to, it takes a short period of time. Now, you do have to have some materials ahead of time, what your project is about. You have to have a
Right.
summary of the budget and also a communication strategy. And I left all the numbers off in terms of any sort of hard numbers because, as you mentioned, there's really no funding for this. You're more of a connector and more of a, okay, let's get it in front of the people who need to see it. Is that correct? That's the way I kind of interpreted it.
Yes, and then all of that information goes on the website, which then part of it is dispersed out to these states. And as you said, there are many websites dedicated to Route 66. Each state has their own website. The Road Ahead partnerships in each state have websites. So Route 66 is a big deal, and the Centennial is an incredible opportunity for each state to, get people back onto the route and into some of these smaller communities.
Couple things I do want to mention is I
Sure.
did the submission about 45 minutes ago in preparation for this interview, mostly because I thought I just wanted to get kind of the steps together. Is I mentioned that I'm a method journalist. Before I'm going to go and do an article on skydiving, I'm actually going to skydive. Before
Okay.
I'm going to go do a review on a restaurant, I'm going to eat at the restaurant. Okay. I'm not going to just make things up with the way I feel in the
Sure.
moment. Old school journalism here. So I went through the project submission. Not only did I already get a response back, the quickest government turnaround in the history of, there you go, Route 66, 65 miles an hour, no problem right there,
Right.
66 miles an hour. But but also I was very impressed with just the connectivity of it. You mentioned there's so many groups out there, and
Hmm.
just getting in front of the right group is so important. The other night when I was going through some of the research on this, because we're doing our project county by county, everybody's got their own way, and
Correct.
bless them for it. I mean, I talked to somebody who's doing the sports stadium tour. Any sports related thing that has to do with Route 66, he's documenting it. And another person is
Right.
doing a devotional for his church every mile along the way. And, hey, Route 66 has got a million stories. Let's tell them all, right? We're
It
going to do
does.
county by county. With my background, it worked out fantastic because of the economic development, because of the tourism, because just all of the county cheerleaders that there are available. So getting in front of them, long story longer, there's actually a Parrot Head Route 66 group in Kansas.
Really?
So the
Wow.
shortest stretch of the entire Route 66 has it's like that movie The Jerk. Somewhere above the Chiclets and somewhere
Yep.
below the Erasers, this little niche group is. But let me tell you, they have a good time. They got some
Right.
great funding, and they'll get you in front of the people that you need to too. So, like I said, long story longer, that there's a lot of these niche groups out there, and they're all extremely important, especially on this 100-year anniversary, this centennial. And what
Correct.
is your connection with the Route 66 and all of this? How did you get appointed?
Well, I have a couple of connections, obviously. So when I was young, very young, I had relatives who lived along the route in Thayer and Auburn and Verdon. And so on Sunday afternoons after church, my father would load the six of us into the car, and we would travel down Route 66, first stopping at Thayer, where my grandmother lived and a couple of aunts. And then we would head off to Girard to visit some other relatives, and then to Auburn, where my uncle and aunt ran the flower shop on the square. So I spent a lot of time up and down Route 66, that particular part of it in central Illinois. And by the way, the only original part of the road is in Auburn, Illinois. The actual bricks you can go on to. So in Auburn, Illinois, if you want to, so that's one thing people should try to do if they're traveling the route. If you're
I
going to be in
did not
central
know
Illinois,
that. Okay, so
yep,
the only original brick.
is in Auburn. You can actually drive on it.
Well, that sounds like something that needs to be taken a picture of for
Oh, you can
sure.
find pictures. Yeah, I should see if I can find you one and send it,
Maybe
Jason.
close the road down just so I don't get hit taking that safety first, right? Safety
Right.
first.
So
So
it's an original part of the road.
and then
So
was
my
there any other connections? You said there
so
was
my
two?
yeah, so my other connection is I worked for Senator Durbin when he was a congressman. And so that would have been the old 20th congressional district, which included Sangamon County and Macoupin County and Montgomery County. So obviously we traveled the route quite a bit when he was a congressman, doing town hall meetings and parades and just general meetings with people. So I have a lot of fond memories of stopping in little towns as we traveled up and down the district. So the old 20th district, that was the original district that Lincoln was actually a representative in as well. So that those are fond memories of traveling with him and meeting so many wonderful people in these communities.
Route 66, it's a highway, and it's there was such a shift, such a change because the highway system went through a lot of main streets, Route
Mhm.
66, the mother road, because it literally went through Main Street. I think it was Main Street
Correct.
USA, wasn't it? I think it was called.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the interstate system came, and where I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota. So I lived like 45 minutes from the South Dakota, Minnesota, North Dakota, where the borders
Or,
meet.
hmm.
And we have a couple interstates that, I-94 and 29. So when you've got an intersection of interstates, you are a high priority on the government because we're 3 hours from Canada and Winnipeg, 3 hours from
Right.
Minneapolis. We're the biggest city to Seattle type of a thing. And so I came pretty aware of the transportation system just off of our Play It in Peoria type of a test market Fargo was for so many different reasons. And the interstate system really impacted these smaller towns. And the one
Yes.
thing that Route 66, not only did it keep some of the smaller towns maybe alive that would have went away much, much faster. Like in my neck of the woods, up in Highway 75 and Highway 59 and some of these other ones that are literally 10 miles from the interstate. But the interstate went around so many towns. There's such a drive for the rural restoration right now, especially along Route 66. You grew up on this. Did you see some of that flux? You mentioned that you had relatives that had the flower
Mhm.
shop, and I've got similar family stories that they had great businesses, and all of a sudden the interstate came in, and all of a sudden they were figured out where they should go with their next business or some of these other things. So, talk to me a little bit about the rural restoration and how the commerce shifted a little bit.
Well, yeah, and I anecdotally, just as a person who's lived here, I saw that growing up. And even when I worked for the congressman, that was a lot of what we were discussing. How do we economically help these smaller communities get people to come back in them? Because they were at one point when there was no interstate highway, as you stated earlier, everybody went through Main Street and stopped. Now it was actually a challenge to get people off of the highway and into these smaller communities who are rich with history. I mean, just think about all the things that happened in these little small towns. I'll give you an example. Mount Olive here in central Illinois is where there is a Mother Jones Memorial. Mother Jones was a labor organizer dealing with, coal mining. Coal mining is huge in central Illinois. So you can learn a lot going through these towns. My two grandfathers happen to be coal miners, so I'm well familiar with that and the history of the labor United Mine Workers being created. All that history is in these small towns. And many of them have little museums and little gas stations that have been restored. So that's part of what we're hoping will happen during the centennial, is that people will rediscover the beauty of rural America across these 8 states and, take a little side trip and meet some people and learn some history.
When we started doing the research for the centennial on this, and this organization, the Crude Life, is a non-political oil and gas brand that started, was it 15 years ago? And it's a lifestyle brand. And they underwrit a book that we're doing that's actually done, but it's being released in April, 66 facts about, Route 66, Americana, because we didn't realize until this came about that the motels came out of Route 66 and speed limits came from Route 66. And there's just so much of our current culture today. I mean, we're talking about the way hotels are designed, like
Mhm.
into U shapes and just so many different things that came from this, that I have such an appreciation for history, probably because I keep repeating it. But either way, I have such an appreciation for history that's what really stood out to me, was being able to tell some of these stories for the modern generation, but also for my generation who didn't even understand. I'm a Gen Xer, so a lot of us didn't even understand that. We grew up with Route 66, the TV show, and we grew up with The Outsiders and a number of these different programs that came out of it. But as I started looking at some of the research behind it, Phillips 66 has a connection to Route
Yep.
66 that has to do with safety and transportation and speed limits and all these and innovation, so it's actually a number of different things. The first gas station and all these different modern amenities. I look at it from that perspective. Is there anything that really stood out to you that this road has brought to the Americana culture that we are living today, that you just look at and say, wow, that's something that Route 66 should really hang their hat on?
Oh, I think some of what you said, motels and you know the hospitality industry was really, flourished during the creation of Route 66. We have it to thank for that. And so now all these modern conveniences, much of that started on the route, as you said, because it was a way to traverse multiple states before the interstate came. Everybody traveled that way.
The other thing I was going to mention too, and I forgot to mention it, but was the small business explosion that happened because of Route 66. That all of a sudden you had people that could get on the road and be a traveling salesman with their ice cream mixers and their Multomatics and this and that and their steak knives or whatever the heck they were selling. That was incredible because that did not exist before Route 66.
No.
Not on a mass scale like that. And you tie in like Joliet, Illinois, with some of the shipping hub of the United States, and absolutely fantastic. When I think of how the distribution arteries that came from this. So anyway,
regional economies.
Yes,
even just here in Central Illinois, you connect all those little towns, and then for us, you connect them to Springfield, which was the capital city. Yes, there was a huge explosion of businesses.
Now, are you going to be part of the Springfield kickoff coming in April? Is it April 30th, I believe?
I'm sure I will be there. I talk almost weekly with the Springfield tourism people. They're good friends of mine, and I talk a lot with them. So they've been including me in some invitations just to be part of the celebration. We have something here in Springfield called the Route 66 Mother Road Festival in September, which brings people from all over the country and all over the world, really, to Springfield. It's a car show, but it's much more than that. So, and we had a record crowd last year, and we're expecting a record crowd again this year. So, that might be another podcast for you, and I can hook you up, Jason, if you want to talk to somebody about that. Scott Dahl, our tourism director, is phenomenal, and his team do a wonderful job. So yeah, there will be a lot of things going on. We're going to have a busy spring into summer.
Would absolutely love to. We're going to be doing quite a bit with the classic car owners and doing some interviews and get more video with their cars and that sort of thing. And we're going to be at Tulsa for when they try to set the world record.
Yeah. And you need to talk to Scott Dahl about Route 6, the Mother Road Festival. It's awesome.
Oh, I'd love to. And John Goodman, of course, two of my favorite movies, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And The Big Lebowski is going to be the special guest. I don't know if he's the official MC, but he's going to be giving some comments for the Route 66 kickoff in Springfield, Missouri on April 30th. Want to make sure we mention that. Do you know why that's the official birthplace of Route 66? Is that where the first?
No. The route starts in Chicago.
No, they call it the birthplace of Route 66. I know it starts in Chicago, but Springfield tries to. Okay, I'm going to look into that because
I don't. That you let me know. I don't know that either.
Yeah, a couple people try to make claim of that. So,
I think one of the good, you mentioned. I want to make sure there are a lot of people doing research about the road and things that happened on the road. For example, there are two African American doctors, they're professors who have been researching about the African American history as it relates to the route. And they've done some fascinating research about that and how people traveled the route who were African American. And it's just fascinating. So it's thrilling to see these projects come through the commission of people working on these incredible, historical things that could be lost if we don't take note of them now and preserve them and talk about them.
Quick search at History Museum on the square.org, Springfield, Missouri. If you've spent even a few hours in Springfield, you're bound to see the sign declaring it the birthplace of Route 66. It may sound like a bold claim, considering the route begins and ends in Chicago and Los Angeles. Well, our city is not the start of the physical highway. It's where the name was finalized. So that's why they call it the birthplace of Route 60. I was seriously trying to figure that out because I heard it in a couple interviews and I'm like, what now? How does that
Huh.
even? So, but
I
I'll
did
tell you
not know
one
that.
thing I have had since we've started this, we've had people come out of the social media woodwork just on the handful of posts we've done, just getting some traction going. A gentleman in Texas said his grandfather was the photographer for that special birthplace announcement, and he still has the negatives in his
Wow.
possession. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure someone would like to talk to you as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So that's the fun type of thing. So we'll have to get people connected on this. And if I can connect them with you guys, that'd be fantastic. So I'll have to circle back and check on that. Is there um
Yeah.
is there any iconic stops that you
Oh, yeah.
care to
So,
mention? I'm sure you got 100, but
oh, I have 100, but I would say a couple that really stand out is in Litchfield, the Jubelt's Bakery and the Ariston Cafe. Those are uh, you know must do when you're there. They're wonderful. In Girard, Illinois, there's a place called the Whirly Whip right on the route still. Um, and it not only is a gathering place, but has great soft serve ice cream. You can't miss it. As I said, we traveled the route when I was young, and there were six of us and my parents, and it was a huge treat if occasionally on a Sunday grandma would say, let's go get ice cream. And we knew exactly what that meant, that we were going to the Whirly Whip. And we were very excited children when that happened. Um, Obviously, in Mount Olive, the Mother Jones monument and the history there, those are all things you should do. In Springfield, my hometown, the Cozy Dog, which is an original and something you really need to see. It's
is that a
great.
hot dog place?
Yeah, it's very cool. Um,
Now Albuquerque has the Breaking Bad fame for the hot dog place and the hot
oh,
dog hut or something like that. And they're trying to claim they have the best chili dog along the whole Route 66. So
uh,
how about your hot dog place?
yeah, the cozy dog is dipped in batter and fried, and
Oh,
it's hard to beat.
ooh,
And we're
so
also Springfield's also home of Made Right, which is also a historic Route 66 entity. So people are coming from all over to go to it.
oh, we've got those at the Minnesota State Fair. Those deep
We're the
fried.
original, we're the first ones.
Yeah, they've got a special name, and they have a line all the way to St. Paul every year for those things. Holy smokes! So that's and then the other thing about Illinois that I've read is that is the state that has the most history in terms of the small town charm. It's kind of you mentioned there's still some bricks there for the road and that once you start getting to the southwest, it becomes more open. It becomes a little bit more desert, but a lot like in some of the smaller towns in Minnesota, where the architecture you can see with the European architecture, whether it's from the German or the Ukrainians or
Mhm.
even the Russians. Is that the case in the rural area in Minnesota where you can see some of that turn of the century architecture still?
Oh, sure. And in some of these smaller communities, and really, some of these smaller communities have done an exceptional job keeping and restoring various things. Um, gas stations that used to be originally on the route, some courthouses, things like that. It has a lot of charm. There are a lot of downtown squares where you actually go in a circle around the square in these towns, and the courthouse is there, and the bar and the dressmaker's shop. So it is totally charming, and you can get lost in these communities very easy and spend an entire day just wandering around. And I think the other thing I would say about these smaller communities along the route is the people who live there are really wonderful and excited about telling you about their town and what makes it special and why they live there. Um, and being able to have those conversations, I think, has been a wonderful experience for me growing now that I'm older and I am going back, as a commissioner and as, a member of the Sangamon County community. It's been wonderful just talking with people and hearing about their experiences. and why it means so much to them for us to be able to celebrate this centennial.
It's kind of funny because the centennial isn't actually until November 11th, according to our records. But everybody is kicking it off already and getting it going because, you got to make hay while the sun is shining, and the sun is shining in the summertime. And so, like for our project, for example, we're doing ours to lead up to it. We're going to jump on the road in April and get off in July, and in August, September, and October is kind of the production time, so that when November 11th comes, we can start dropping the produced content for like the next 3 months. So that way we can give, a good year basically from the beginning to the end of the road. And that's just kind of our way, because there is going to be more excitement on the front end of this, because when the actual 100 year comes, I think everybody's just going to be like cold and stuck in, and Thanksgiving is starting and Christmas time, and you might not get as many people out there traveling the road as you would during the summertime. So that's how we're looking at this. Are you guys looking at this? November 11th makes it tough, because either you got to wait till next year in 2027, or you just got to go ahead and do it on the same year. Was that talked about at all?
Oh yeah, I think, and my colleagues who work in tourism can speak to this better, but yeah, we even on the commission, it was a whole year. We're celebrating for the entire year. In order to take advantage of all those things we talked about, so that there could be multiple celebrations. I mean, it's 8 states.
Yeah.
There's tons of stuff, My colleagues, when I'm on calls for the commission, and everybody kind of says, sometimes we have a few minutes left at the end of meeting, and people will start talking about what's going on, and we're like, wow. So it was purposeful to celebrate for a year, so that we really could bring attention to it. There are going to be a lot of international travelers too to the route. Um, the oh, I'm not going to remember the name of it right now, but the United States has an ad agency that obviously, promotes visiting the United States throughout the world. And they had a special campaign for Route 66. Um, so we're going to see a lot of people traveling in these 8 states, not just from the continental United States, but from all over the world.
We're putting together a 50-state bingo card. Hopefully we'll have enough to hand out, because we expect to see all 50 states on Route 66. So
Oh,
that way we could check them off and show people. We want to get a picture of the people next to their car. We're going to blur out the license plate number, but you'll be able to see the state it's from. And, just some of the games to play along Route
oh, yeah,
66.
definitely. There will definitely be.
Are you
Um,
guys, do you have any major sponsors that do you guys deal with that, or you're not, because it's Congress? So you don't
no,
deal with that. I saw,
no,
like somebody's got Harley as a sponsor, and I saw somebody the other days
yeah.
announce Booking.com is going to help them as a sponsor and that sort of thing. But no, you guys don't do that, right?
No, the commission does not do that. Some entities might come to us, like you submitted a project. Somebody may say
Mhm.
in their project submission that, Standard Oil is going to be one of their sponsors. But no, the commission itself, as I said, is basically to review and recommend to Congress projects that should be considered.
And one more thing, is this through the Parks Department that I see?
What?
The commission?
Well, the public law formed us, and I can send you the link to the public law if you want it. But it's our working agency. The federal entities would be the Park District, the Park Service,
Hmm.
and the Transportation Department,
There
DOT.
is okay. So when I was doing the form, for some reason my memory was with the Parks Department, and I thought to myself, going, well, why wouldn't this be under the Department of Transportation unless it's looked at as an actual federal park? Because I could see that being
Yeah,
this route is so important that we need to look at it as a federal park. But it sounds like a combination of each, huh?
yeah, it really is. Yeah, you have to have a federal entity.
That's interesting, yeah, because you've got the Department of Transportation and also the Parks Department overseeing this. So that's fantastic. It shows that there's some culture behind it. In my neck of the woods, when they name a road after a person, that's when you know it's going to get funding. You know,
Yes, that's
it's
exactly
well,
right.
it's like in science experiments. Don't name the bear. You know, you don't want
Right.
to get too attached to it, type of a thing. So you name the
Yeah.
highway. That way, that's the last one. You're not going to fund the Theodore Roosevelt Expressway. What's wrong with you? Come on. Versus, you're not going to fund this number. So Route 66 transcended that into its own identity. So that's people forget that. That's how important that highway is. But
Yeah.
um, well, in kind of a recapping and in summary here, is there anything that we left out? Anything we want to make sure we reiterate or mention before we wrap up here?
I think what I would reiterate is people, no matter where you are, you need to contact the local tourism departments in the cities you're going to, or look for the state commission to celebrate the centennial. They're really doing an exceptional job of creating websites that have what's going on in each of these states and what's going on in each of these communities. And so even and I encourage people, take the challenge. Go out if you're anywhere near Route 66, go out for even just a day and experience something and visit some of these communities. You won't be disappointed. I guarantee it. Go to an event. It'll be great. Um, you'll just, it's fantastic. You don't want to miss it.
Well, and I appreciate the time today. And as you mentioned, for anybody out there, you don't necessarily have to do the 2,433 or 2,450 miles that it is, but get out and drive your state and get out and drive your county, get out and be a part of it. Because if any year is a year to get that off your bucket list, this would be the year. And there's quite a few people that do have this on their bucket list. So, Joan, thank you so much for your time today.
Great. I put a few things in the chat for you, Jason.
Okay.
So should you need them, and please feel free to reach out. As I said, if you want to talk to somebody about the Mother Road Festival, let me know and I'll hook you up. That would be great.
Here we go. Awesome. Thank you so much.